Hello everybody, I'm here to talk about using Demisto and utilizing the context data for just debugging slash playbook development and what it holds. So here you can see we have an example incident. The incident ID is 1405 and this was pulled from QRadar. And with this incident, we're going to be able to look at the data that QRadar passed to Demisto. So if we click on these three little dots up here and we go to context data, this is all the data that's currently stored in the database as the incident comes in. Note this is this playbook that we have is just the default playbook, so no really actions were taken except for enriching it um, and extracting the IPs and stuff that were noticed in the incident as it came in. So typically when the incident comes into Demisto, it's going to come in via two ways. You're either going to have it come in from the SIM, something like Splunk, QRadar, Logarithm, or you're going to have the incident manually created. And to find the data from either a manually created incident or an automatically generated one from the SIM, it's all going to be under this incident context key. So now if we scroll down here, these are all the kind of default Demisto fields that get generated when the incident is created. And some of these you'll actually leverage if the incident was manually created. This is where you find the things like the source IP, the destination IP. If we go to the edit screen, if there's any custom fields leveraged, in this instance there wasn't, so we're not going to have any of those in here. But if we scroll down, wrong scroll bar, we'll have what's called the labels fields. And when it's the labels fields, that means it came from the SIM. So in here we can see like a QRadar ID, the description of the rule, and some other like important data. And now if we want to leverage this to say like we want to do another search and pull back more data on the ID, we can click on that ID like I just did right there and it will turn green. And then we can do some $ and then curly bracket and then paste it and then another curly bracket. And this is basically referencing that context data key, and it's going to return the value. And all that the context data really is just basically dictionaries and lists storing values, keys and values, all in a JSON object. So we can do that one more time, and we got back our ID. So we could leverage something like that to do maybe a pull from QRadar, and then we can fill in the ID here, and we're able to fill in that $ curly bracket the ID and run that command. And you'll see it took us right to the war room and it ran the command. And now if we go back here, we can see it made a new little QRadar section with the offense details, similar to what we just saw in the incident screen with the labels. Just kind of duplicated again because we manually ran it. And now with things like this, like we have the IP here, we're able to leverage some of the other built-in functions like the IP to hostname command to do a lookup. And we got to add the curly brackets on this guy. Oh, it's because it already manually did the endpoint. It's already right here. If that wasn't there, we'd be able to manually do a DNS lookup on that IP address. And now, the cool thing too is like we have this instant or this context database, but what if we want to add or edit a key in here? Like we have this endpoint.ip. What if I want to, for some reason, I wanted to add a 1 on the end of it, hypothetically? Or a better example would be this. We have this hostname field. So if we do what's called the set command, and we have what the key we want to, like the key is going to be where we want to store it. So let's just make a new one called test, and then the value is going to be here. Oh, we lost it there. Let's do that again. And then the value is going to be from that key. It'll automatically grab it. Now if we go look, under test, we have our hostname. Now, for example, what if I wanted to only have vision and not the whole vision infosec thing? What we can do here is we can run the set command. It's going to be under built-in commands. Oh, never mind. Utilities. Oh. So we have the key, and this is just going to be, we'll just overwrite test, and we have our value, which is going to be here. But we want to take an action like a transformer on that value, because all I really care about is having just the host name, not the fully qualified host name. So we can add a transformer on here, and then for like this example, we could do something like a regex. So we only want to grab the first part of it, up to this, up to the first dot basically. Something like this would be able to grab that data. We're just going to do 0 here, and we can test this, and this is going to be 308. Oh, messed up a little. That /s plus is just going to keep going, so we'll change that to now this regex could be better. This is just really just an example. There we go. We'll test that one more time. So now we got just the host name, not the fully qualified host name. So we click OK on here. And what this is going to do, it's going to store it in test, and then we're going to do .hostname as the key. Notice I don't have the $ curly brackets, because I'm not referencing, I don't want the value, I want to store it in this this key, and I'm going to generate this new key because this doesn't exist currently. And we can check that real quick by trying to call the key to look for any values. There's nothing in there. Now when I run this, I didn't call append, so what this will do is this will wipe what I have stored in there right now, but we're going to run this anyways. So we set the key. Now if we reference test again, we have just vision. If I wanted to append to it, it's pretty simple. We're just going to call set again. Append is going to be equal to true. The key is going to be test. And we're going to do test.fq fully qualified hostname, just something like that. And then the value is going to be from our endpoint.hostname, our existing key. So when we run that, now when we call test, we have the fqhn and the hostname. So that's kind of nice, being able to manipulate the data like that. But you might ask, what if I want to edit the data only under the label section? Like I want to take action on the data that was imported. This is typically pretty rare from what I've seen. But if we try and do our example that we just did with set the key, so this key is going to be like offense source. Let's pick that. Again, we don't need the brackets around here. And we do a value of this is a test or something. Or actually, just to keep it in line, the other one's an IP, let's just do Cloudflare's DNS. So we're going to run this. It's going to look like it's all good, like we updated it. But now let's reference this. It didn't change. And the reason for this is anything under the incident context data, you can't take an action on with just the set command. Demisto actually created a custom set like incident command just for this reason. So if we wanted to like take action on this field, there's two things we could do. We could add a duplicate of the field, which would be the most likely scenario, because typically you don't want to like edit the incident data that came in, like, and overwrite the top of it, because then you kind of lose the ability to go back and like trace your steps and see like what was the true source IP in this instance if we overwrite that offense source. So we'd use add labels, and if we want to add a label for this, first you're going to do a square bracket, then a curly bracket. This is going to be the key name. In this instance, let's just call this source underscore IP because that's not taken currently. And then a colon. We got to escape our quotes in here. And this is going to be the value. So let's make it Cloudflare's DNS again. And we need to wrap this whole thing in a quote, a pair of quotes. And we'll run this. So you can see this updated. It redisplayed our labels. So now if we go, we don't even need to really refresh because it did it for us. Down at the bottom here, you can see source underscore IP is that. So that's one way to append to the labels using the setIncident command. The other option, is there's the labels section. The only issue with this is, and we want to make sure we highlight this, this will replace all existing labels, so we'll lose all the data in here. So the only way to avoid that is if we crafted our query to essentially pull all the existing data automatically, and then append, like basically either append or overwrite just that one field that we want to. We're not going to go over and cover that, but that would be the one way to not lose all this data. But for this example, let's continue overwriting the offense source. So again, we're going to add our quotes in our brackets, then our curly brackets. Escape the quote. This one's going to be offense underscore source. Escape our quote again. One more time. And this we're going to call 1.1.1.1 again. So we're going to run this. Now if we go to labels, you can see right away we lost all of them. So that's one of the concerns with using that type of command. For creating a sample incident, this is very handy to build your playbook around. You import what the fields are going to be available to the playbook before it runs, and then you can start doing playbook design and development. One last thing we're going to cover is what if you want more than one piece added to this labels section in this context database. It's as simple as just doing another quote or single comma, and repeating the logic, except for we're not going to do new square brackets because that's going to be a list, and this is only going to take one list with multiple dictionary pairs in here. So we're going to add our escapes again, and we're going to call this one, let's call this offense destination, for example. And let's call this just 2.2.2.2, just to make it easy. So now we're going to append, and just to change this up, we already have 1.1 in there, so we won't be able to see it change, so let's make it Google's DNS. So we have the offense source is going to be Google's DNS to this 2.2.2.2. Now we should, when we run this, see the labels command change. So we're going to click enter here, and you can see we got both those updated. This is very handy, understanding how the context database works to really debug and solve problems when your playbook runs, and you want to see what it's doing and see where the operations are taking place. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll be making more videos. Thanks.